Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's just
It's
afternoon,
fine. I will tell you that.
12:01. So we will go ahead and get started here. Thank you so much for joining us for Nuts and Bolts of Enrolling at Flint Hill. My name's Jennifer Webb, and I am the Director of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid here at Flint Hill. And I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Ann Peterson to host this event. And that's Ann Peterson there.
Hello.
So
Welcome.
in terms of the event today, we are here to answer questions you have that are really critical to your decision about enrolling at Flint Hill. Or I know that a lot of you have already submitted the contract, so they might be critical to your next steps in figuring out how you might start putting the pieces in place to make Flint Hill work for you. So today we're going to review all of the questions that you submitted when you registered for this event. So thank you so much for submitting those. And we will go through billing, transportation, submitting the enrollment contract, several different topics. And today is really about the things that you might need to know now, but we have lots of information planned for you in the coming weeks to help with your transition. If you haven't enrolled, once you do enroll, you'll immediately have access to the resource tile, the resource board in Husky Hub, which is the same system that you completed your application in. And in there, there's a parent toolkit where you have access to the information that all of our current parents see and information that they need to have their kids enrolled. And then as we approach the new year, there will be a new tile in there with information about preparing for the school year. And we are going to go through all of that at the new parent information night on May 4th. So if you haven't yet enrolled, you'll receive a link to register for that event once you do enroll as well. And starting on March 23rd, we are going to start sending out bi-weekly new Husky updates on Wednesdays. And so every other week, you are going to get an email from us telling you exactly what you should be thinking about. Is it time to think about forms? Is it time to think about registering for a social? Is it time to think about textbooks, uniforms, all of that? We are going to guide you through that from the time that you enroll until you're here and your child's here and we're started in the school year. So I just wanted to share that the purpose for today isn't to cover all of that, because that is planned over several weeks, because there's a lot of information to unfold. So with that said, I am going to go ahead and get started and turn to our questions and that you submitted when you registered. And we are just going to go through question by question and answer the questions that you've told us that you have. And so
Hey, Jennifer.
let me back up a minute. Yesterday, we sent out the bus.
Hey, Jennifer.
Yep.
Maybe we could just ask everybody if they could mute. If everybody could, because I think we're getting a lot of background noise. So either if you're on the screen or you're on a phone, that'd be great. I think thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for pointing that out, Ann. And so yesterday we sent out the bus routes. And so I know that a lot of questions have to do with that. So if you haven't seen that in your email, it should be in your inbox. It outlines the bus routes that we have in place for this year. And we also sent out the calendar highlights. As we know, those are two of our biggest questions. And so I am going to turn it over to Ann, the Associate Head of School for Finance and Operations here, to go over a little bit more about transportation, the registration, the routes, the age requirements, and do an overview of that for us.
Thanks, Jennifer. And again, welcome. Excited to be here, and hopefully we can help answer some of your questions. We sit in a great location in Oakton and draw kids from all over the region, and as such have various routes that try to cover the different arteries where our students are coming from. Our service is not door to door. It's optional. We probably have about 180 students riding our buses. It is a fee that it's an optional service so that families can sign up for it. And you can sign up for morning service, which, one way if you just want to come in the morning or use it in the afternoon, or round trip, morning and afternoon. Our upper school students, as you know, as part of the activity requirement, are here after school for many different activities, whether it's the play, clubs, sports, robotics. And so we do offer a 6 p.m. bus service as well. And there's a smaller number of routes that are offered at 6 p.m. because we don't have as much demand at that hour. So I think that's just it in an overview. I can answer some questions that might be more helpful than me talking. So I saw one in the chat. Can transportation fee option be added after the school starts? Yes, it can. We will send out in May the registration for bus service because we need to try to get an idea of how many students are on each route and start planning. But there are people that don't know, obviously, all the moving pieces in their own family. They may not have it all down in the beginning and in the summer. So yes, you can sign up after the school year starts.
Great. Great. Thank you, Anne. And there was another question that was submitted on the form about age requirements to ride the bus.
That's great. So we do our lower school, middle school, and upper school students all ride the bus together in the morning and the afternoon. So we have a broad range of age on the bus together. And we do a lot of work with our middle and upper school students to make them realize that we have little ones on the bus with them and try to put them in a leadership role with our littlest Huskies. So in the morning and the afternoon, all three age groups can ride the bus. The 6 p.m. Bus service is only for 7th through 12th graders. Our middle school students, what we have found is they really don't need it unless they may be coming back from an away sporting activity and didn't get picked up by their parent at the game, and they get back to school late and too late to take the 4 o'clock bus. They then can take the 6 o'clock bus.
Great. Thank you. And another question in the chat I see is, how much might this year's routes be changed next year?
That's a great question. We look at all of our routes every year and take feedback from families about where we aren't serving. And usually what we try to do, these are really, I would say, the actual, I don't anticipate us adding another route. If we do anything, it may be to tweak some of the locations of the existing stops.
Great. Thank you so much. And I don't see any other questions in the chat right now about bus transportation. If you have other questions about bus transportation, please feel free to drop it in the chat.
Yeah, there's one that just got dropped in about on an occasional basis. Yes, you can, use it on a one-time basis. You can use it if you need it occasionally. Yes, you can use it occasionally.
And also related to transportation, some families also asked about carpool. And so some of our families do choose to carpool from different neighborhoods together, either actually to bus stops or all the way to Flint Hill. And so later in the summer, we send out a form asking for people's interest to be in a carpool network, to be connected with other families that are interested in carpooling. And then we share that information out. Also, once you are enrolled in Husky Hub, you can access the directory both of current families and incoming families, where you can look by zip code for families that might be in your neighborhood if you wanted to do some proactive outreach in advance to set up carpooling options. And if there aren't any, I don't see any other questions about buses or carpool. And please do feel free to send in any questions you have as we're talking here. And I'll keep moving forward, but please feel free to keep using the chat. Another question submitted is, are there and what are the costs outside of tuition? So I'll turn that over to Anne.
Sure. Thanks again. I think one of the things we always try to be very upfront about as people are planning are what are the costs. And what I would first start it by framing what is inside of tuition, because I think we're a little different than some of our peer schools in that regard. And you should have seen it on the contract, but if you haven't walked through the contract, you might not yet. In lower school, so grades junior kindergarten to sixth grade, included in the cost of tuition is the use of the school-owned iPad for all students in grades JK to 6. And then similarly in grades 7 through 12, all of our students, as a part of tuition, also are using the school-owned MacBook Air. We really are on a 2-year refresh cycle for all of our devices. So those devices are constantly being refreshed and are the latest and best device because we use it so much and have so much on it that we need it to be that way. So all of that is included in tuition. Lunch for students in grades 7 through 12 is also included in tuition. It's not optional. We feel that it's a better system where all students receive lunch in grades 7 through 12. So that is also included in tuition. Currently in our lower school, we are developmentally feel that brown bag is the best way to go. We found that our students are eating more and a little healthier and a little nicer because they've had their little tummies filled with what's coming from home as opposed to a school lunch. So that's our philosophy in junior kindergarten through sixth grade. Across all 3 divisions, so if we look at other things, let's talk about school supplies. In grades JK to 6, we do supply all of their necessary school supplies inside of tuition as well. So when they arrive on the first day, they have their crayons, their pens, everything that they may need. They also, their workbooks and textbooks, that is a fee that you do pay. We use a textbook vendor and online, and you order your textbooks and workbooks online. That does go across. That is in addition to tuition for all students grades JK to 12. The cost on that varies. Obviously, we're very mindful of the cost of textbooks, and oftentimes make a choice on really do some real digging on actually, do we want to use the textbook that may cost the $300 because it's pretty hefty cost. We do use a lot of online textbooks because we're so tech savvy. And so the textbook bill can range in lower school anywhere from $50 to 12th grade, where we may have kids taking multiple advanced courses, to anywhere to $500. So that's kind of the range on textbooks. They're not included. Let me see, there were some other questions. We do not charge fees for participation in athletics. All right. So our students start participating in athletics in seventh grade. Um, Obviously, if you need a pair of cleats or a stick, that is needs to be provided by the family. But if you have students that play lacrosse, or boys football, helmets are included, and there is no fee for athletics in any of the grades. There's no fee to participate in fine arts or the play. And there is no, someone asked about parent association, PTA, it has many names. There is no fee for that as well at our school. Every parent is included, and there's no fee. We do, as you get into the upper school, some of our programs do take trips. And for example, our baseball team is headed to South Carolina this coming week for spring break. And there is a cost to the families for that. But if a team travels, our swim team traveled to state championships in February, needed to spend the night, there is no charge to families for that.
Great.
Clubs. What about clubs? Okay. Let's see here. Do students bring in their own tennis rackets? They do. We do, though. For example, we had a student this year who'd never played golf before, wanted to try out and participate with golf. And instead of making the family invest in a set of golf clubs, we found a way around that, and we're able to locate some golf clubs for the student to use. So we always try to find a way, if it's just, I want to try this for the season and I don't really want to invest in, the racket. Can you help out? We're always there to do that. Clubs. So in lower school, we're really looking forward to next year getting back to our normal routine post-COVID, fingers crossed for all of us. And we did have a very rich and robust after-school club program where we brought in enrichment activities for students, ranging from a cooking club to it's been a while, so there were a wide variety: chess club, Latin classics club, those things. And there is a small fee to participate in those clubs. In upper school and in middle school, clubs are really part of the activities of the school. So there are after school clubs that range from interest in classics to the service club, things of that nature. Those there's no fee to participate in those. There's some great ones there on the band. Yes, very good on band and musical instruments. That's a great one. And I have to remember back, it might have changed when my children were here. We definitely rented instruments, and I think students do still rent instruments. I think we have some specific instruments, but on the whole, I believe that students are renting their instruments when they participate in those activities. Here we go. Does Flint Hill offer summer, spring, winter camps for non-school days? That's a great question. So we, during spring break, the second week of spring break, we do offer a spring break camp for our students in grades junior kindergarten through sixth grade. We have a really extensive summer program as well. We don't have very many student or teacher work days. We try to incorporate those with what's called a 2-hour delay. So those are really the coverage that we have is during spring break and the summer.
Great.
And after school. Yep.
And I'm sorry if I missed it. Did we cover uniform cost?
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's great. We did not. Uniforms. That's another thing that'll be available to you to see what our guidelines of our dress and uniforms are, and it sort of progresses from one division to the other. more developmentally, if you are on campus, you can see that our upper school students don't wear a strict uniform. So, but in lower school, the cost of uniforms is, in addition, we do have a uniform exchange every year, robust. Lots of people participate, turn in their own old uniforms. You can always find lightly used uniforms for a really, really reduced fraction of a cost. And so I hope that helps cover that.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Anne. Okay, and moving on a little bit. So we had some questions related to kind of the logistics, the parts of the enrollment process. So everybody who was here has been admitted. So congratulations on that. I don't know if I said that earlier, but we are just so ecstatic that you've applied to Flint Hill, and big congratulations to you and your family. I know some of you have already submitted the enrollment contract, and for those of you that haven't, when you log into Husky Hub, there will be a yellow bar at the top, and you click on that yellow bar, and you can view the contracts for each of your children. And as you click through the contract, there's several different pages in there that talks about the payment plan options. We'll also talk about that a little bit here in just a moment, and we'll talk about the different pieces of the contract. When you get to the very end, that is where you see the deposit, and you sign the contract, you put in payment information to submit the deposit, and then submit the contract. So that's I think there's about 5 screens that you kind of proceed through there. Next. And if you'll talk about the payment options a little bit. Sorry, I do see that one of the questions was what payments are needed by the March 18th, next Friday deadline. What's needed by that deadline is just the deposit amount and the contract itself. Those 2 things will reserve your space in the class. And then I'll turn it over to Anne to talk about the next payments, the due dates, how they might be broken up.
Great. So we offer 3 payment plans, the 1 payment, the 2 payment, and the 10 payment plan. We do have a very good tuition management system that when you pay your deposit, you'll have the option of paying it with a credit card or sending a check in, and then you'll gain access to our payment system. And with your payment, you can enter your payment information in, and it's pretty self-explanatory. But those are the 3 options that we offer. I would say there's some people who like to get it over with and pay it in full. There's plenty of other people that pay it in 10 payments because it's a lot of money and they want to chunk it out. So whatever is more convenient with your family is there. The standard deposit is $1,000. It is non-refundable. I get a lot of questions about this, and I think this is probably something to really touch on. Even sometimes from our current families, we're unsure of our situation. My job may be moved, but I want to reserve my spot for next year. And I'll just talk through the terms of the contract that way. We call June 1 is what is called the contract binding date. And that's when the contract becomes legally binding, meaning that those that have indicated that they're financially responsible after June 1, if the student isn't withdrawn, they are responsible. So families have until June 1 to change their mind, or notify us that something has changed and that they will not be coming next year. June 1, I always send an email just to remind everybody that is the contract binding date. And if your plans have changed, please notify me prior to June 1. If you do enroll, if families enroll now in February and in March and change their mind before June 1 and withdraw, the $1,000 non-refundable deposit is forfeited, but you are then released from the remainder of the tuition. It's a little contractual there, but I always feel like good information for people to have, and always like to try to be really clear, and we get questions about that.
Thank you. And I think there was a question about, is there an email or message before the electronic tuition payment occurs?
Yes, there is. You get notified about when that's happening, and when it will occur. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And um, let's see here. So another question that we received about enrolling was about the forms that you need to submit, and again, that comes later in May for most of the forms, and we'll share those with you, give you plenty of time to complete them. We don't expect a really fast turnaround, so you have time to go through them and think about them. There are some forms that are whether you're signing up for aftercare, if you have lower school, middle school students, authorization to pick up, who can pick up your child, photo permission, athletics form for upper school, the bus form. And so there's a variety of those types of forms. And then there's also the health forms. And so the health forms include, medical authorizations, health records, annual exam for grades 7 to 12, of course, request information to keep your child safe while here at campus. We want to know about allergies, any other medical conditions that we should be aware of, and our incredible team in health services should be aware of. And so those aren't due yet. So you haven't missed anything there, and we will certainly send them out several times. You'll receive several emails. We'll talk about it at new parent information night. Yes, there is a form regarding social media photo opt-out. So if you would not like your child to be photographed or video recorded, then we will certainly accept that on the form that is sent to everyone to opt out of that. Absolutely. Okay. And so there was another question submitted more in the area of class demographics. So as related to ninth grade, and part of our enrollment planning is that we do try to keep grades balanced as much as possible, and in many definitions and of the word, and in many different parts. This was the question that we received was particularly related to ninth grade and to gender and the number of students returning. So we have about 80 students that come up from Peterson Middle School to the upper school, and that is about, and then we so half are current Huskies, and then about another half of that are students coming, a little less are students coming from other schools like you. And in terms of the ratio right now, that grade is about 60-40 for male to female ratio, and then the people that have admission offers right now are about 55 to 45% female to male ratio. So kind of the opposite. So we do anticipate that grade specifically being quite balanced in that regard. Another question about the school calendar regarding whether we match the county for our breaks. And so we did send out the calendar highlights for the year yesterday. And Flint Hill has their own breaks, you'll see by the calendar. Of course, there are some that really naturally overlap in the fall and during the winter. Our spring break is a bit different. And I don't know if you have anything to add about kind of the calendar and the breaks or the whys.
Sure. I think that we do align at the winter break, really with Fairfax County and Loudoun County and Arlington County. There are a lot of different counties, obviously right here that families have students in. We traditionally do not, our spring break, it starts, actually today's the last day of school before spring break. It's always in March. We have done this traditionally because we find it's the better time between our academic quarters to have a break. the county used to align their spring break around the Easter holiday. They are not doing that anymore. And at this point in time, we are not looking to change the timing of our spring break. That's not to say in future years we won't discuss that and talk about that, but in the short run, probably in the next 2 or 3 years, we're not. Our break will be staying in March.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Ann. How are snow days handled? Are they handled independently
That's a
from
great question.
Fairfax?
Yeah, we do make our own decision about snow. We're able to do that because we have different requirements. We used to follow Fairfax County. It was great, but we all know when we have the big storm that comes through and we're out of school for a week and the roads are clear and kids are ready to get back to school, but sidewalks necessarily at parking lots or in neighborhoods aren't. We don't have those same requirements because we don't have as many walkers, and we just don't have the same requirements. So we make a call independent of Fairfax County. Oftentimes it's similar to the county because the weather is the weather. But we are able to make our own call to see what we safety first always. We have kids coming, we have a lot of student drivers and our own employees. So but we do make our own call.
Thank you. And another question about the important dates, and are there any other dates to keep between June and the first day of school? So just in terms of dates, generally, I mentioned we have the May 4th, the New Parent Information Night. That's an evening event. You should have received invitations for the welcome events, mini golf at Oakmar and Rita's Ice. Those are the second week in April. The question was specifically between June and the first day of school. And so we'll have some summer socials that you'll have the opportunity to attend, to meet other parents and students, to meet students. And we'll send those dates out in the new Husky updates, but there's no dates that you're required to have open in order to start here in the fall. Alrighty. Okay, and so another question that we received are about field trips. So we're really excited to get field trips going again at this point in time, and we do have a variety of different field trips at lower school, middle school, and upper school. Just to give you a sampling of what we've done in the past, at lower school, they've done Discovery Theater, gone to the Smithsonian's, gone to the Chesapeake Bay, Freedom House, Bureau of Engraving and Printing. For middle school, they've done advisory scavenger hunts on the National Mall. They've gone to the Holocaust Museum, community service days, different field studies there. And then at the upper school, as you can imagine, it really gets a lot more course specific and depends on the course that they're enrolled in. Another question we received is about after school activities. So a bit earlier, we talked a little bit about clubs and aftercare, and I am going to be sending out the list of clubs for upper school. When we send a follow-up email after this event, I'll include a lot of links of things that we've talked about here today. But this one particularly relates to upper school, and whether there is an aftercare or study hall program in the upper school. Anne, do you want to take that one?
Yes. So in middle school, 7th and 8th grade, we do have an aftercare program. We believe that students at that age still need to be supervised if they're staying on campus after school. So they run their own program in the middle school. When you get to high school and to upper school, we don't run a supervised after school program. There's students on campus that finish the school day. They go to office hours to see their teachers, and then they may be going on to clubs or athletic practices, robotics. the play. And so the after school time is really kind of neat. That's a big social time for kids after school. And we have students that may not be doing an after school activity in the fall, but mom or dad can't get here until 5 o'clock to pick them up. So they stay on campus, get homework done, and there's always adults in the building, and they're not closely supervised because we begin to developmentally give them more responsibility on campus.
Thank you very much, Ann. And another question about a course placement and how course placement works. So in the middle school, Brian Lamont, the division director there, reaches out to families in mid-April to start having the conversations about course placement, doing a review together of the courses that the student has taken, what courses might they like to try, where they might be able to challenge themselves, where they might want to challenge themselves, and make a decision along with the family about that. For the upper school, we have a course placement virtual event, much like this one, on April 6th at noon with Debbie Ayers, who is the assistant division director and the academic dean there. And so she is really able to answer all of your in-depth questions about course placement and advising. If you've enrolled, you would have received a link to register for the placement assessment day, which is on April 9th. That is on a Saturday in the morning on that day. And so when course placement is considered at upper school, the advisors are looking at the results from the placement test, looking at recommendations, looking at the courses, of course, that the student has taken, what courses they've done well in, and of course their interest. What are they hoping to pursue? So that is all a dialogue between the upper school and the family that happens shortly after the placement testing day.
Hi, I just have a quick question. Unfortunately, I didn't have connectivity into the chat. If you are not available because you're out of town on the 9th, is there a secondary day that's been identified for that course assessment or course placement assessment?
Sure, you just reach directly out to Maha. Her in that same email with the course placement registration and directions for kind of determining whether or not you need to take the course placement. Her email address was in there. We'll also include it in the follow-up email from today's event. And so if you're going to be out of town that day, no problem at all. You just reach directly out to her and she'll set up another time and date that works for both of you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And I see that we have another question in the chat about, can extended day be used ad hoc? So yes, there is the option for dropping into the aftercare programs on occasion without signing up for the aftercare on a daily basis. Okay, so we had another question. So moving on a little bit to the category of parent involvement. So we have a lot of great Husky families who are excited to get involved in the community, and we love that. And so it's about parent involvement in terms of volunteer. And then we had some other questions about the partnership and the communications between teachers, advisors, counselors, and the parents. So school and home, essentially. So to start with the opportunities for conferences and formal connection points between the teachers and home. In lower school, there's 3 formal conferences during the year. There are Hopes and Dreams conferences that are held at the beginning of the year, where the family meets with parents and students, and everyone talks about their hopes and dreams for the year. And then there are student-involved conferences. They're actually happening today here at Flint Hill, where the parents are invited to the classroom, and they're there with their student, and they're their student actually leads the conference and sharing about their progress through the year and their learning and their experiences and their interest. And it is truly special. There is also, we use a tool called Seesaw so that teachers and more often students in the classroom are able to post their work throughout the day to Seesaw, and parents have access to that. So parents will receive several notifications about what their student is doing during the day, and they're able to look at that. And we, for all divisions, we really value a strong partnership between the parents and between the teachers. So whenever a question comes up or there's any topic to discuss, teachers welcome parents to reach out to them to set up phone calls or conversations outside of those formal touch points. In middle school, there's also 3 formal conferences held, including the Hopes and Dreams Conference. And then at the upper school, there's 1 formal conference held each year in November. And again, it's there's those communication between home and school are welcomed and opened and encouraged, because we find that communication is what really allows and assists the students in being as successful as they can be. In terms of the volunteer opportunities, Ann mentioned the Parent Association earlier. We have a very active Parents Association with numerous volunteer opportunities. You can choose to volunteer on a committee. You can sign up to work at the Igloo, which is our snack bar at the upper school. Parents meet at the Miller House to do with mailers. Hopefully a lot of you got a call from some of our parent volunteers or board volunteers last night. Another volunteer opportunity, which everyone loves, is to call new Huskies and congratulate them and welcome them and to see what questions they might have. So there's a variety of those opportunities throughout the year. In lower school, parents also have the opportunity to chaperone field trips, read books in the classrooms. They have a brown bag lunch series where parents have the opportunity to come in and speak with the students in the school about their career or their job or their interests. And the students just love to hear that from current parents. Another question about how students are integrated into how new students are integrated into Flint Hills. So we, at every division level and at every grade level, we have new students joining us, and the community really celebrates meeting new students. The students that have been here, whether a year or especially if they've been here several years, they get really excited about the new Huskies that are joining us. And at all 3 divisions, the first few weeks of school are all about community building as a strong focus. It's really a part of, every day here at Flint Hill has a focus on community, but there's a really strong focus on that the first couple weeks of school. And so within a few days, there isn't, there certainly isn't, noticeable between new students and returning students. And the students certainly, they mix and mingle in their different groups. It's not like those groups stay separate. They're very much integrated between the new Huskies and the current students. And the current students are always so eager to make new friends and welcome our new Huskies. So new families do find that that's a seamless transition. Okay. And I think that we have reached the end of the questions that we received by form submission when everyone registered to join us today for Nuts and Bolts. The chat's still open. If you have anything on your mind that you'd really like an answer to, please do drop it in chat, because we do want to make sure that we answer all of your questions today. And we'll pause for just a moment to see if anything comes in.
So it looked like the start of the school day is a question. In lower school, the school day begins at 8:10 and ends at 3 o'clock. The middle school begins at 7:50 and ends at 3:30. And the upper school begins at 8:10 and classes end at 2:30. Those staggered start times are required by Fairfax County for us when we did our zoning application for the school and the use of the school. Those times are driven a lot. The spread between the times is because of traffic and mandated on us. We do encourage students to arrive early for school and not come in right at the bell, because it gives them a little bit of time to get settled in, to socialize, to see their friends, and just get. So I would say in the middle school in particular, the majority, a lot of students are here by 7:40. Of course, there's some here at 7:30, and there's always, some that blow in right at the very end. So I hope that helps.
Yes. And then another question about describing the lower school dress code. It is uniforms in the lower school, and the pants are, the bottoms are typically navy blue or khaki. There's pant options, short options, skirt options. For the shirt, they're polo style shirts that can be short sleeve, that are available in both short sleeve and long sleeve. There are also dress options, typically with the polo underneath. And there are also, the students do have the option to wear sweatshirts in the building during the day, Flint Hill shirts. And typically on Fridays, we've had Husky Pride Days, where the students will wear any sort of Husky Pride t-shirt, Flint Hill t-shirt that they'd like to wear. Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in. So I want to, again, congratulations to you. Congratulations to your family. We are just ecstatic that you've chosen to apply to Flint Hill, to many of you to enroll at Flint Hill. Just a reminder that contract deadline for those of you that haven't applied is next Friday, March 18th. And we'll look forward to all the next steps that I mentioned earlier, as we continue to develop this beautiful partnership together. And don't hesitate to reach out to me, to Anne, to any of the admission team members, the faculty members that you've had conversations with this week. Everyone at Flint Hill is here to help you and is really excited to welcome you. So thank you for joining us today. We'll send a follow-up email that has some hopefully useful information and useful links. And thank you so much, Ann Peterson, our associate head, for joining us today, and hope that you all have a wonderful day.